We are live. We are live. I'm Dr. Frita. Welcome to Medical Monday. This is Medicine in the News, where we talk about all of the hot health topics going on in the headlines. Today, we've got quite a few headlines, starting with the interview that was heard around the world. Yes, I'm talking about Amanda Seales on Club Shay Shay. Now, the interview was over 3 hours long. I watched all of it, but the medical portion we will be talking about is her diagnosis of autism. Amanda Seales shared that she was diagnosed with autism, what was formerly known as Asperger's. But since she revealed being diagnosed with it, she later shared that she did not actually receive a clinical diagnosis, but rather she self-diagnosed. So we'll talk about autism because April is Autism Awareness Month. And then we will also be talking about fake Botox. Yes, that is back in the headlines. Counterfeit Botox, because it continues to cause hospitalizations and cause a botulinum toxin-like illness. But today we'll be talking about what the FDA and the CDC have to say about it. And very importantly, I'll let you know how to find out if you are dealing with fake Botox, how to recognize counterfeit Botox. And we'll talk about measles. Yes, we'll talk about measles because a young Chicago boy has been diagnosed with measles. And so we'll talk about what's going on with this illness we once thought we eradicated. So how to recognize it and how to prevent it and what to do if you've been exposed. Lastly, more groundbreaking news. The world's first combined heart pump and pig kidney transplant. Yes, now there's a combination. So we'll talk about that. And we have a live Q&A. So make sure you like and subscribe as you come into this room. Write your questions down because guess what? It's Medical Monday. I'm Dr. Frita, and I'm answering your medical questions right here live in this live. So, hey, stay with me. Come on back. Okay, we have so many things to get into, but we are not alone because I have my co-host with me, Shador. Come on to the stage. Come on to the front of the class.
Hey.
How are you doing, Shador?
Doing pretty good. How are you doing today?
Good, good, good. You having a good day? You had a good weekend, I hope?
Yes, I did. Much better than last.
I was about to say, I hope that pollen didn't get you. I know I had a good weekend. This was a basketball weekend, Shador. And, you know, my youngest girl, my 7th grader, who's almost my height, had an AAU basketball tournament. They won every game. They won the championship, first place. And my daughter got the MVP ring. So she is over the moon. I am over the moon. And so it's some pretty good stuff. And I'll tell you what's funny, Shador, about those games. When people see me, you know, I'm pretty tall. I'm 5'11", as you know. And so I like to walk around with my head up because I know they just assume that I probably played ball in college. Maybe I played ball. They have no idea that my one limited experience was in middle school when I had my growth spurt because I went in 7th grade, 5 feet. 8 months later, I was like 5'7". Then they wanted to put a basketball in my hand, and I promptly shot the ball in the wrong goal, Shador.
Oh my goodness. Terrible.
And I was so bad that it didn't even go in. It rolled around the rim. And so I think I might have a little PTSD on that one. But anyway, let's go ahead and get started. Before we get into these topics, Shador, let's look at some of the questions that we've had and see if we can start off with a question here.
All right, let's do it. All right, this is from Wall Howard. And this was on your fruits videos. Love all the fruits you highlighted. Is it better to eat the fruits whole or will some benefits be lost if they are juiced?
Oh, that's a good one. So yeah, so you know, I've done several fruits videos. And I know the most recent one I did was the 12 fruits that can help you to lower your blood pressure. But I've done many fruits videos, including how they can help the kidneys, how they can help with unclogging the arteries, all kinds of things. So very good. Thank you for your question, Wallflower. So here's the thing, because I really have recently gotten into the juicing and I love it because it can be very hydrating. It's just kind of adds some variety in how you take in your foods. Sometimes you can even do meal replacements depending on how you do it. You can do some cleanses, fast, depending. Make sure anyone listening, everyone in the chat, make sure you consult with your physician. But when you juice, you actually are getting rid of the skin. So you're getting rid of the peel, you're getting rid of some of the health benefits. So it's true, when you juice, you are losing certain benefits. For example, I love to add apples to my juice, but in doing that, I'm losing all of that good soluble fiber that's in the peel. And so I'm getting, the delicious flavor, I'm getting some of the antioxidants, but I am losing that fiber. Same thing with carrots, same thing with cucumbers, same thing with anything that has a peel, an edible peel or a skin that you get rid of in the juicer. Yes, you're losing some of the vitamins and specifically some of the fiber. Here's the catch. You can actually repurpose some of the pulp. So for most juicers, they put the juice in a certain section. For all juicers, really, they put the juice in a certain section, and so that's what you drink. And then they get rid of the pulp, they get rid of the skin in another section where you can repurpose it. For example, there's one juice I like to make that has carrots, it has ginger, it has apples. Some people will actually repurpose that pulp and make themselves like a healthy cinnamon bread or something like that with it. Not really bread, but they'll repurpose it in that manner, or they'll just eat it straight, depending on what your fancy is. But yes, if you want to regain all of the nutrients that's in the skin or the peel, then figure out ways to repurpose the pulp. But when you're just purely juicing, then yes, you are going to lose that fiber from the peel. So that's a good question.
Yep, excellent question. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
All right. So let's get into the fakeness of it all. Okay. So in 2024, we all know that a lot of people, a lot of celebrities and just people in general love to use Botox, right? Botulinum toxin in order to try to look younger for longer, right? So what the Botox does is it creates a paralysis, really locally, that helps to relax lines or wrinkles in the forehead, so you don't get the forehead lines like I actually have, and you don't get the smile lines like here. So you get the Botox all those different places, and they Botox kind of any lines to help you to keep you from actually having an expression or being able to lift your eyes. No, some people who actually are good and skilled at doing Botox are able to allow you to have facial expression. So I'm not bad mouthing Botox. But I will say that if you choose to get Botox, make sure that you're getting it done by a clinician. So either a board certified dermatologist, a plastic surgeon, a medical doctor, a nurse, anesthetist, or someone who is a clinician who actually is trained and skilled in giving the Botox, and make sure that you're getting it done in a clinical environment. Because what we found in the news is that now in multiple states, there are people who are getting counterfeit Botox, and it's leading to hospitalizations and this botulism type illness. And so, if you've heard of botulism, it comes from a bacterium, Clostridium botulinum. And so what we get is the toxin that's used for Botox, right? But if you have this counterfeit Botox, then instead of the Botox being just local and used to kind of cause getting rid of the wrinkles, you can get systemic symptoms, meaning the Botox gets into the system. And so now you can have symptoms like double vision, inability to hold up your neck. You can have incontinence, meaning you're urinating on yourself. Yeah, can you imagine trying to do things to beautify yourself and now you're urinating on yourself? You can have paralysis and even death. Okay. And so it's quite serious. So serious that the CDC and the FDA have gotten involved. And so what I really want to do is just make folks alert as to how you can tell if you've got a counterfeit Botox. And I want to know from y'all in the chat, is anyone aware of how you can tell if there is counterfeit Botox? And Shador, who is the first person in the chat today?
Yes. So our first person today is,
drum roll,
Ruda Tuda, I'm assuming.
Ruda Tuda.
RUDHTDUH.
I love it. From the Ruda to the Tuda. Thank you for coming and joining. Aloha. Wait, from where?
No, hello, Doc.
Hello. All right. Well, I want in the chat, is there anyone who happens to already know how you can spot fake Botox? And probably maybe half the folks in the chat are like, what are you talking about? They might not even be using any Botox. But the reason I'm bringing it up, because it's in the headlines, number one, and it's now gotten to the point where, people can actually lose their lives from it. All right. So I will share some ways to find out. One, again, you need to be using someone who's board certified, a clinician in that manner. But if you look at the box of Botox, which is manufactured by AbbVie, it should actually say botulinum toxin, and it will say onabotulinum toxin A. If it's a counterfeit one, it'll just say botulinum toxin. It doesn't say the ONA, onabotulinum toxin. The other thing is that if it's counterfeit, it might be in a different language. And then the way that it comes, the actually FDA approved manufactured Botox comes in 50 units or 100 units or 200 units. The one that's fake, the counterfeit one, might come in 150 units. So yeah, so if it's real, it'll come in 50, 100, or 200 units. And then there is a certain number that's on the fake one. I believe it's C3709C3. So if you see something like that, then you need to run, not walk, report it to the FDA, or at least ask the question and talk to your clinician. Again, normally I wouldn't be spending that much time talking about this, but what is typically meant, for cosmetics and for people's own, personal business on what they want to do to make themselves feel good, now it's causing hospitalizations and could potentially cause death. So that's that on that. Did anyone in the chat say they already knew how to recognize fake Botox? I don't know if that's really
no. So Sean G says no.
Hi, Sean G. Yeah, I mean, I don't think it's actually a very typical lunch conversation, a breakfast conversation. All right. Well, let me ask this next question. Measles. How many folks in the chat have heard of or know of someone in recent years getting measles? And I ask this because measles is a disease that we actually thought we had eradicated, but now it's back. It's back in business. Okay. And Shador, do we have a clip on the fake Botox?
Oh yeah, sure. You want to take a look?
Okay. Yeah, let's play that while she's playing the fake Botox clip. If there's anyone who's heard of anyone getting measles recently, even though we thought we had eradicated, let us know.
You're on a quest for eternal youth and considering Botox. A warning from the FDA tonight about the safety of these injections.
As of tonight, a total of 19 women in 9 states, including Florida, have suffered harmful reactions from fake Botox. NBC2's Dave Elias is finding out what's going on.
Botox injections are completely safe when you get them from a licensed professional like Billy Morris here at the Laser Lounge Spa in Cape Coral. However, many people are getting counterfeit Botox. It can lead to botulism and severe health concerns. Botox can pack a powerful punch if it's not dosed and delivered properly.
Kind of looked like they had a stroke.
Amanda Peluciano knows someone who suffered from botulism after receiving Botox.
I had asked, I said, what happened to you? She said, I had Botox.
Mike is a first-time recipient.
No concerns, but first time I'm a little like, I don't know what this is all about, but but I'm not worried.
That's because he knew that he was getting an injection from a licensed professional.
Anything else I need to know? No. Stay upright for 3 to 5 hours.
Physician's assistant Billy Morris says that his patients are aware of an FDA warning of counterfeit Botox putting lives in danger.
I had a patient just yesterday who was sitting in the chair getting Botox and pulled up the article from NBC.com about the problem with Botox and how I guess now it's spread to 9 states,
including Florida. The FDA says in all, 19 women received Botox injections from unlicensed individuals. 9 of the women were hospitalized, 4 treated with botulism antitoxin medicine.
But unfortunately, I have heard of parties being done locally where there's an esthetician or a nurse doing the parties. I would worry about that.
The CDC warns the counterfeit Botox was purchased from unlicensed sources.
And yes, you can get any of those off the black market online.
Morris urges patients to take a close look at the product being used.
By all means, your injector should have no problem showing you the box, showing you the lot numbers, doing it right in front of you.
The FDA warning that cheaper doesn't mean better.
You should do your research when you're going to get your Botox done.
Now, Botox treatments can take just minutes, but again, make sure you're going to a licensed professional. Doing otherwise could be risky business. In Cape Coral, Dave Elias, NBC2.
All right. Thank you. All right. And listen, Shador, I spend a lot of time talking about when beauty kills. And so I talk about dangerous plastic surgeries. I talk about some of the dangers of breast augmentations. I talk about the most dangerous plastic surgery. Hey, anyone in the chat, if you know the most fatal, the most dangerous plastic surgery, put it in the chat. I'll tell y'all later if you don't know. Do you know? Do you know? The most dangerous plastic surgery, put it in the chat. But I do want to say, again, when I'm talking about the Botox, I'm not hating on Botox. I'm not judging Botox at all. I'm just saying if you're going to do cosmetic procedures, which really, kind of help to make you feel better, to look better, perhaps give you a little self-esteem boost, you don't want to put yourself in a position where you are in a life-threatening situation. So just make sure, again, you go to someone who's actually certified, you go to a medical facility, and you take a look at the box and you look at some of those hints. Make sure that it says botulinum toxin, that it's from AbbVie, the manufacturer, that it's in either 50, 100, or 200 units. Just kind of do your research. And so that is that. So yes, if anyone knows the most dangerous plastic surgery, put that in. And once they get some guesses, then I'll ask about that. And the next question I want to ask is this. Put a 2 in the chat if you would never get Botox. I know they say never, but put a 2 in the chat if you feel pretty strongly that you would never get Botox. I'm just curious.
And Dr. Frita, while we're on the term of Botox, if you don't mind disclosing, we have one of your viewers. I can see clearly a couple of comments regarding the Botox. Dr. Frita, have you had Botox?
No.
And they follow up, but your skin is beautiful, by the way.
Thank you. Thank you. I don't have any Botox in my skin, but I will say I'm someone who is not opposed to Botox. So I don't have Botox. And so you can see like the wrinkles or whatever. Not that I want to put myself out there like that, but it's funny. And I'm mentioning it because Shador, that I go and I complain because a lot of people have trolled me and have actually said, oh, you could tell she's got too many fillers. Her cheekbones look like rocks. These are 100%, my cheekbones. And, and I've even had people who are like friends of mine who have called and who have asked me the question. But again, for the things that are done by a clinician, then I'm very happy, to support anyone who wants to do things that are safely, including breast augmentations, liposuction, but cheap is expensive. So when you're doing things like going to, these places where you get discounts and things like that, then cheap is expensive. You can actually have a problem where you end up getting very ill. And especially if you're doing the most dangerous plastic surgery. Again, if you're getting the most dangerous one by a board certified plastic surgeon, that's going to put you at a better risk. But it's still, even with plastic surgeons, it's something that can be harmful. Has anyone guessed the most dangerous plastic surgery?
Yes, they have. Quite a few people have guessed the most.
What are they saying?
BBL.
That's it. Who said BBL?
First person to say it is Miss Hall.
Hello, Miss Hall. That's right. BBL, Brazilian butt lift, gluteal fat transfer, is the most dangerous one. So of all the plastic surgeries, if you choose that one, you are putting yourself at the highest risk, especially if you do some of the medical tourism where you're going to places like places outside the United States where they don't necessarily follow the same regimens that we follow. They don't necessarily have the same guidelines. If you go to those places and you're getting your BBLs, you're at risk for many reasons. One, you can get a fat embolus, meaning some fat can actually get in the blood vessels. Because what they do is they typically take the fat from the abdomen, the belly fat. They give you a 360 liposuction all around the belly and the back. And then they take that fat and they put it in the buttocks, right? And your butt. But you have these veins. And if some of the fat goes into the veins, then it can travel to the lungs and you can die. People have died, from the BBL. And even if you are a board certified plastic surgeon, you are going to be very, very careful. So your chances of death are going to be much, much lower. But still, of all the plastic surgeries, that is the one that does cause the most death. If you go to another country also, and then you're flying back here, you could be at a high risk for getting a DVT, deep venous thrombosis, So then that's like a blood clot in the back of your leg, popliteal vein, a blood clot, and that can travel to your lungs and that can cause potential death. Then of course, there's a risk of infection when you're getting the BBL. It's right there by the rectum, where feces, bacteria are. And that just puts you at an increased risk of having that type of infection. And a big thing, especially with the medical tourism, when you go to another country and then you come back here, a lot of surgeons don't like to go behind each other, right? They don't like to go behind each other. And so if a surgeon comes and they're trying to fix a surgery, either for cosmetic reasons or even to help you from an infection or something major, they may be hesitant to go behind someone who they don't know what that surgeon did. They don't know the dangers that are there, because if something happens to you, then the surgeon here will be liable. So just think very carefully. I don't care how many Instagram models you see. I don't care what's in style about the teeny waist and the big bottoms. Just make sure with all plastic surgeries, with all procedures, that you make sure that you do your research and that you go to someone who's board certified, a clinician, and you don't let beauty kill. So yes, it's BBL. So that is good. But yeah, but Shador knows that, yeah. Look, I have a fit, so many people. And one of these days, what I need to do is just bring pictures of my entire family. And I think the main thing I get is the cheekbones, which my mother, my aunts, my brother, everybody. And people will sit and they'll say emphatically about what all I've had done. That drives me crazy. But anyway, so that's that on that. All right. Measles.
We have a couple comments on Botox.
Yeah. Oh, did anyone say that they would never ever get it? Oh, and yeah. I'm not a never ever, by the way, on Botox, fillers. I can tell you never ever will I get a BBL. I can say that emphatically. I usually am a never say never person. I can tell you never ever will I get a breast augmentation. But in saying that, it's not even judgment, because I feel that people should, if they can safely do things to make themselves feel better, why not? Would I never ever get a tummy tuck? I feel like I've had 3 kids, and if I don't need one by now, I'm guessing I'll never need one. But so that's a never ever, not because I think it's so bad or so dangerous, but that's just like a personal thing. But yeah. Okay, what are they talking about?
Yeah, so Andrea Galloway, she chimed in first, said she would never
ever get Botox. I want to know. Okay. And different people have their if you have your reasons and you feel like sharing, do. If not, don't. I'm curious on the never evers.
Yeah. So a couple of comments. We have Jetty McCrae.
Oh, is that a never ever?
No, she says Botox might not be a lunchtime conversation, but it is a lunchtime procedure.
Oh, it's a lunchtime procedure, but you better not get it done at a lunch cafe, Miss Jetty, because that person, it might not be authorized to do so, and you end up with botulinum toxin. But that's true. People do have these kind of lunches and fun things. And that's the importance of talking about it. Because I know that even on the Real Housewives, some of the franchises, they'll have these kind of fun parties where they're doing different cosmetic procedures. That being said, I don't know if the people there are certified to do it. I know that a lot of the places are not actually, medical clinics where you'll see it on different shows. Let me take Real Housewives out of it. I've seen it done there once, what seemed to be at someone's house. But the lunchtime kind of fun things where you really don't know, you're not looking at the vial, it's not a physician, not an anesthetist, esthetician, or someone who's actually been certified, that's where people can get into trouble. But yeah, anyone else making comments?
Yes, TS. Hi, TS. I heard your Botox might help with migraines. Not sure if that's true.
Yes, it has been approved for migraines, where it can some kind of a way, I guess the same way that it relaxes muscles to keep from having the wrinkles, it can also relax and help with certain types of migraines. So yes, it has been FDA approved for migraines in some cases. And listen, the information I'm giving you is just that. It's information. It does not replace the advice of your physician. But yes, what you heard is true, that in some cases, neurologists will give Botox for migraines. So yeah. So I'm not in the never ever club on Botox, on fillers. Look, they be talking about people like Giselle on the Real Housewives of Potomac. They call her neck. She's a physically beautiful person, but people are so cruel, and they talk about her for having neck. I'm not a never ever for a neck lift. If I looked and I saw that my neck was falling down. So my point is, sometimes people think that I'm just hypercritical and I'm like being a little snobby. No, I just want people to do things safely and to understand the risks. I'm not a never ever for a facelift. Right now, a good ponytail can give a facelift. But look, you let my face start falling down and not get up, I might come on here and y'all be like, oh my gosh. So I'm not a never ever, would never for a lot of things. The only absolute never ever is a BBL.
All right,
never ever. Have I covered that?
What about sweating? I want to get Botox with sweating from Sean.
Yes. Some people who have hyperhidrosis, they sweat a lot. You can get Botox like in your underarms if you sweat there a lot. And there has been clinical data to show that Botox can help to decrease that. Because I suppose that sweating under the underarms, like even if it's a cool environment, or maybe if you have a lot of anxiety, if you're just a big sweater, that can really throw you off socially and be uncomfortable. So yes, Botox can be used for hyperhidrosis, sweating. Never, ever, never, ever. Okay, that was kind of fun. All right. So measles. Did anyone comment on the measles just yet?
Yes, we did.
Oh, let me hear some of the comments. Then we'll
Patrick,
get into that.
hi, Patrick. Patrick says, I have immunity from it as a kid, which I think, definitely in the U.S. is something they definitely highly recommend.
Yes. So it's a part of the traditional immunization record that's required for going to schools. Although in some places, like in Florida, with the governor there, you don't necessarily have to have had vaccinations to go to school. In fact, when there was a measles outbreak in Florida, they even, the Surgeon General of Florida didn't even say that you had to have a measles vaccine, even after they knew there was an outbreak. And I'll talk about the issues with that. As y'all come into the chat, please be sure to like and subscribe, because we're going to be getting into more information, more evidence-based information. Please like and subscribe, and sharing is caring. So share with other folks and let them know we're in here talking about headlines. We talk about some of anything. You never know what you're going to get in this room. But yeah, so if you actually have had measles as a child, or if you've been vaccinated, then very likely you still have immunity. But if you are not sure if your vaccine was from a long time ago, you can actually go in to your doctor and they can do a blood test to see if you're still immune to measles. And if not, they can go ahead and give you the vaccine. Any other measles comments?
Yeah, Miss Juliet. Hi, Miss Juliet.
Hi, Miss Juliet.
She says my brother's son, but in Nigeria just had measles.
Yeah, measles can be pretty scary. We thought we had it eradicated. And back prior to having vaccines, 7 to 8 million people died each year of measles worldwide. So it was very, very big deal. It can cause not just the rash, not just the fever, but it can literally cause pneumonia. It can cause encephalitis. It can cause death. And it's highly contagious, very highly contagious. So if you're not vaccinated from the measles, then you're exposed to it, you have a 90% chance of getting it. Very, very serious. In fact, just recently, just last month, right here, 2024, last month in March, a young boy, a 3-year-old in Chicago, got the measles.
Right. One moment. Here we go.
The Chicago mother says that she has no idea how her son was infected with measles. He doesn't attend CPS schools and has mostly been at home. But his experience with the virus is something she never wants to have to endure again. Jessica Coletti never thought it would happen to her family.
I feel like I've woken up in a different world.
Her 3-year-old son, Vincent, started feeling sick last Wednesday.
He was lethargic, not drinking, not eating. We were in the hospital on Friday, and they sent us home, told us it was COVID.
But days later, he was back in the hospital.
He woke up Monday morning, didn't talk, didn't move, and the rash started on his cheeks, on his face, and moved all the way down his body. I knew something was severely wrong with my child.
She says Vincent tested positive for measles and was the sickest she had ever seen him.
I honestly thought he was going to die in my arms. And I just kept telling him that mommy's getting help and you're going to be okay.
The CDC recommends that children get 2 doses of the MMR vaccine, the first at 12 to 15 months of age and the second between the ages of 4 and 6. Jessica says her son has received his first shot, but he isn't old enough yet to get the second one.
When kids have one vaccine in, we're talking about a 93% efficacy in protection against the measles. When they have 2 vaccines themselves, we go up to 95 to 97% efficacy. We have a lot of toddlers in this little age group where they might fall into this range where they don't have enough immunity built up.
Tonight, Vincent is starting to bounce back.
He seems much better. He's sitting next to me. He has chocolate on his face, but he is much better.
But family's concern is turning to their other child, who's already showing symptoms as well.
I never would have thought we would came back positive for measles. And now I'm just scared and concerned for my 10-month-old.
Okay. Yeah. So thankfully that little boy is doing better. And it's really tricky that he was really sick like that, Shador. And then he tested positive for COVID, which you might think, okay, well, that's the answer. And then he came back with having measles. So yeah, so measles is a very, very highly contagious virus. And it's in the measles, mumps, rubella vaccine, which again is something that is a part of the routine vaccinations. Between the ages of 12 months and 15 months is when the first dose is recommended. the second dose between the ages of 4 years and 6 years. And in this little boy's case, he actually did have that first shot, which is supposed to give you a 93% protection, but he ended up getting the measles anyway, which can only make me consider that there's a great chance that he would have been much, much sicker had he not had the vaccine, and it's possible that he just kind of fit into that 7% where it didn't protect him. At any rate, I'm glad that he's doing better. But by the time you get the second shot, you have a 97% protection. But measles is so scary because you can walk into an elevator for someone where someone was there 2 hours prior, and you can still get the measles. So it's highly, 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 highly contagious. It is recommended that you get vaccinated for measles because, again, it's one of these illnesses that used to kill millions upon millions of people each year. We thought we had eradicated it, but it's back in town. And in Chicago, the little boy had not even been to school yet. He was only 3 years old, so he didn't get it from school. But there was a shelter there where there was an outbreak of measles. And now they say that everyone at that shelter, and there were a lot of people who were immigrants at that shelter as well, they say all of them have been vaccinated. So just a reminder, measles is here. Measles can kill. We've had outbreaks in several places, including Florida. And if you go to my Instagram, if we could put it my Instagram, that's at dr.frita. I did an interview on News Nation earlier this year where I go into detail about the measles. And at that time, I was specifically talking about the outbreak that was in some Florida schools. And I was frustrated about that Surgeon General of Florida, the Florida Surgeon General, who was not requiring that people got vaccinated with measles even after the outbreak, which is very dangerous because, like I said, it's extremely contagious. If you're not vaccinated, you have a 90% chance of getting measles. And really, you're supposed to quarantine. It's recommended that you quarantine for 21 days. And when you have the measles, even 4 days before the rash pops up, you can be contagious. So yeah, so check that out. It was on News Nation, an interview I did on the measles. Any other interviews related to what we've talked about? Not thus far. Okay. All right. So one of the things about the measles is that there was a time with that vaccine that a lot of people were opting not to get the MMR vaccine because they'd heard that it could cause autism. In the chat, can you please put a 3 in the chat if you believe that the MMR vaccine, the measles vaccine, can be associated with autism? Put a 3 if you think it can be associated with an autism. Put a 4 if you don't think the MMR vaccine will cause autism. And we'll revisit that. A 3 if you think the measles vaccine, the MMR, will cause autism. A 4 if you think it won't cause autism. Don't be shy. I really want to know what you think in the chat because we're going to discuss it, and I'm going to give you some evidence. Okay, I'm going to give you some scientific data behind the answer. All right. And so speaking of autism, Shador, this is Autism Month, April. I know we're on the tail end of the month, but that's why I'm wearing my blue. I think had I told my sister in time, she would have, my sister crochets, I think she would have crocheted me a ribbon, but I was like, I'll just put on some blue because this is Autism Awareness Month, which is, I always love when we have awareness months to really make people, think about certain conditions, or it puts a spotlight on certain conditions just to kind of give them their light. And one of the things that shed light on autism this month is that interview that Amanda Seales had on Club Shay Shay. Put a 5 in the chat if you've seen the interview, any even clips or any part of the interview, or if you watched the whole interview. Put a 5 in the chat if you watched that interview on Club Shay Shay or parts of it with Amanda Seales. Put a 5 in the chat. Anybody putting 5s in the chat? Nobody watched Club Shay Shay or saw any of the things.
Oh yeah, Coach HC mindset.
Okay. Wait, Coach
HC mindset.
Coach HC mindset. Coach HC mindset. Tell me what kind of coach you are. Are you a mindfulness coach, or are you a football coach, and that's why you're watching Shannon Sharp? Let me know what kind of coach you are. Coach HC mindset. Maybe a mindfulness coach. Okay, so you watched that interview. It's kind of been trending all over the place. Anyone else watched the interview or any clips of the interview that from Club Shay Shay?
Yeah, Miss Jackie has seen the interview.
All right. Hello. All right.
Miss Hall.
Okay, so good. I'm glad y'all watched. I hope y'all have some opinions. Hi, Miss Hall. Who else?
And Miss Betty Marie.
Hi, Miss Betty Marie. Now, I'm wondering if y'all actually watched all 3 hours, because it was a very long interview. I did watch it while I was folding clothes and doing different things. It was a lot, but it was actually quite engaging. So yes, so Amanda Seales, you may know her. Oh gosh, she's been a child star, but then also more recently, she was made really popular again by being on Insecure, Issa Rae's show, where she did quite a great job playing a character who was supposed to be a little bit bougie and ended up having postpartum depression, which I thought was a really excellent portrayal. She also is a comedian, Amanda Seales. She's had some comedy specials. She's an actor for sure. She was a child gymnast, and she's really done quite a lot. Right now, she's getting a lot of her publicity off of her social media engagement because she's very outspoken. She's very pro-Black, and she actually got her master's in African American studies with a focus in hip hop. And she got it from an Ivy League university. She got it from Columbia. And she's clearly very highly intelligent anytime you hear her speak. Well, she's got a bit of a reputation around town. And by that, it's kind of a running joke that I guess is not really so funny, that a lot of people in Hollywood say that she's unlikable, that she's difficult to work with. And that's kind of the narrative that's out there on her quite a bit. She famously got kicked out of a Black Emmys party by, as she explains in this interview, Issa Rae's publicist. And according to Amanda Seales, Issa Rae's publicist said, "I don't like you," and so there's just kind of been a whole lot. She's been outspoken also on Gaza. She's if ever you go to her channel, Amanda Seales, she's just very, very vocal, outspoken. She was also on The Real. Well, as far as the medicine in the news, while she was doing this interview on Club Shay Shay, she shared that she has a diagnosis of autism. She says she has autism spectrum disorder. So let's play the audio from that.
I remember the words that she said to me. She was like, "Oh, you're just a Black man trying to police a Black woman for the white man." And I was like, whoa, what?
My whole life, people have been trying to convince me that I'm not a good person because of these attributes. And then to find out that these attributes are really just autism is a wild idea. It's just a wild revelation.
This is such a difficult thing.
Dr. Frita.
Oh, it stopped. Okay. All right. So yeah. So if you go to Club Shay Shay's YouTube channel, you'll be able to see the interview of Amanda Seales. But bottom line, she says that she was diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. And what she says that she has is what was formerly called Asperger's, which was a very high functioning autism. That's what they called it. They no longer call it Asperger's anymore. She gives the reason. And it does look like, by research, that name is of someone who was associated with something unsavory. I don't want to even give it any light, but now they call it level 1 autism, what used to be called Asperger's. And so a high functioning autism. And so for those of you, especially those of you who put 5s in, who actually saw the interview, I really want you to comment and let me know what you think as we go on with this discussion. And remember to like this video as you come in. We're giving evidence-based information. So please like the video and please be sure to share it. And to subscribe to my channel. We're up to over 700,000 subscribers here on the Dr. Frita YouTube channel. We're very proud of that. So please make sure you join the party and subscribe. Okay, so for autism, it's actually a bit common. 1 in 36 children in the United States are diagnosed with autism. And it is a condition that's associated with various things. It can be associated with some behavioral difficulties. Patients with autism may have difficulty picking up with what are considered to be normal social cues, but what's normal. There can be an aversion to making eye contact. Sometimes the speech of people with autism can be considered to be a bit flat or a bit scripted. There's often a difficulty in, again, reading social cues. They socialize differently, people with autism, quite often. Sometimes there's repetitive behavior, like some rocking behavior, or maybe, if you have a kid with the wheel of a car, or an adult from that matter, they may want to just do things in repetition, like roll the wheel of the car. And there are different levels of it as far as levels of intellect. You can have a very, very high intellect, which the level 1, which used to be referred to as autism, is associated quite commonly with a very, very high intellect. And we know that Bill Gates has revealed that he has autism spectrum disorder, as well as Elon Musk of X, formerly known as Twitter. And regardless of your personal opinion of Elon Musk, I know I have many opinions of my own. I don't think many people would argue about his intelligence and his acumen, you know, with the Tesla, with the X, and with his, I guess, multi-billionaire status. Same thing with Bill Gates. And some may argue with Amanda Seales, highly intelligent. So a lot of that is associated with the level 1. And so there's level 1 autism where you may need some support, level 2 where you need substantial support, level 3 where you need very substantial support, meaning that your activities of daily living, just different everyday things that most people are able to do on their own. If you have level 3, you may need more support in that. At any rate, one of the things that Amanda Seales was saying on why she feels confident that she has Asperger's, and she did say that she had a diagnosis of Asperger's while she was actually of autism spectrum disorder while she was on the show. She was saying, even in talking to her mother, she used to do a lot of rocking. She said to Shannon Sharp that if there were pennies that were there, that she would be lining them up, which kind of goes with that repetitive behavior. She talked about herself being very direct. That's another one of the symptoms of autism spectrum disorder, being very direct and not necessarily bending and putting fluff or softness or sugarcoating. You just are direct. Yes, no. Someone asks you a yes or no question, you give them a yes or no answer, when it may be considered to be within the social norm to kind of go into an explanation. You know, like if someone were to give me a gift, if someone were to give me a diamond necklace, and if they said, "Do you like the necklace?" I might say yes. And they may take that to think I have an attitude. I don't like the necklace, you know, if you're someone on the spectrum. But they want you to say, "Oh, yes, I love it. I can't believe you got this for me. You're such a kind friend. Oh, the diamonds have such great quality. I'm going to wear it every day." That's kind of the social norm of showing your appreciation, right? You give the extra. But someone with autism, you ask them if they like the necklace, and they might say yes. And Amanda Seales shared that she's done a lot of those things. And then as far as getting along with people, you know, the narrative is out there that she's unlikable. She even shared how she had an interview with Essence magazine, because she talks about how a lot of the Black organizations are also treating her kind of in a way, not kind of, they're treating her, according to Amanda Seales, not accepting her or keeping that narrative going that she's unlikable. She had an interview and she said they canceled on her literally 3 hours before the interview. This is according to Amanda Seales on that interview with Essence. So here's the thing. So she went through all of that. Okay. She talked about her diagnosis of autism, but then she went on a live right after and said that no clinician, no psychologist, no physician, no neurologist has actually diagnosed her with autism. She said she diagnosed herself. She said she diagnosed herself. So here's what I want to know, especially from the people who put a 5, but even if you didn't, and now you're familiar with the story, I want you to put a 6 if that makes you think that she wasn't really being sincere. Put a 6 if you doubt her diagnosis, since she never went to a clinician. Put a 6 if that makes you doubt her diagnosis of having autism spectrum disorder, and comment, like, tell me why you doubt it. Do you think that maybe she's trying to make an excuse, if you will, or give a reason, or make herself kind of people be more empathetic towards her? You know, like, oh, she's not really mean, she has autism, or oh, she's not really unlikable, she has autism. Put a 6 if that makes you suspicious, since she actually, and out of her mouth, she said no clinician has diagnosed her. She diagnosed herself. Put a 6 if that makes you suspicious, if you don't think that, if that makes you lose confidence in the diagnosis. And put a 7 in the chat if you're like, I don't care if she diagnosed herself. She's very smart and she still probably has it. So a 6 if it makes you question it, that not only did she diagnose herself, but she wasn't up. She didn't tell. It was a 3-hour interview, 3 hours and 10 minutes. And nowhere in that interview was it stated, yeah, I say I have the diagnosis, but I diagnosed myself. Put a 6 if that's suspicious to you. Put a 7 if you think you don't care. She's smart. She could diagnose herself. These doctors don't know what they're talking about anyway. What do you think?
Yeah. So We do have a couple of comments. Melissa,
Hi, Melissa.
she put a 6. Her
Okay.
comment is, when is a person just a jerk and not autistic? She just
Melissa, now you know you went there. And that's funny because this has been trending, and I've been kind of paying attention and reading and looking at blogs and looking at YouTube. And there was one mother who made a comment on someone's YouTube or on someone's blog where she said that she has 2 children who have been diagnosed with autism spectrum disorder. But then she said having autism and having a character flaw and being a nasty person are 2 separate things. That is very interesting, Melissa. Melissa, you know you're shady, but that's a good point. Okay, so she's kind of suspicious. Okay, so you're not letting it slide as being an excuse for issues. You know what, Melissa?
TS is also TS also put a 6. I think people use it as an excuse for their actions.
Very interesting, TS. Okay, and she's been getting a lot of backlash. So if you go to Amanda Steele's Instagram. Yeah, I just wish that she would have revealed that she diagnosed herself, because even for me, I was feeling really empathetic and I was like, oh, okay. Oh, she's naming all of the things. Oh, the rocking, that's true. But then I think about it and I'm like, you know what? If you are a person of high intelligence and you read what the symptoms are, and I'm not saying this is what she did, but you really can answer questions in a certain way. Like, I'm very well versed on autism. So I could sit here and tell you guys that I do rocking. I could tell you guys, if I were a person who had that, the reputation of being short and unlikable, I can read, I can go through and kind of tell you. So did she do that? Anybody else? You know what? TS and Melissa, is anybody who put a 7? Who's on Amanda?
A couple of 7. So Cheryl has a couple of comments. Hi, Cheryl.
Okay, good.
So she said she diagnosed her son, and later the doctor did diagnose him also.
Okay,
so
Cheryl.
7. Who cares?
Who else?
So she was just saying 7. Who cares? And then Patrick also put a 7. And Patrick has shared that he's autistic as well, and has been unfortunately mistreated.
I'm sorry, Patrick.
So so they're both on the.
I'm glad there is a mix, and I do agree that sometimes people can use a diagnosis to be an excuse. I'm not saying that's the case for Amanda Seales. What I will say is I really wish that she would have shared it, because for who was that? That was Cheryl who diagnosed her son?
Yes.
This is something that's interesting, Cheryl. So in the diagnosis, males are diagnosed more than females, like a 4-to-1 ratio. And symptoms usually start to appear between ages 2 and 3. And mothers, fathers, parents, caregivers are the first ones who will notice. They'll notice that something maybe is a little bit different about their child. Their child doesn't like eye contact. Their child is maybe averse. They don't really like being around a whole lot of people. They don't like loud noises. There might be sensory things that they're hypersensitive to noises, to sounds. They like routines. Don't change things around. Don't mess with their toys. Don't be, a few minutes late for breakfast, lunch, dinner, things like that. Sometimes there's a language issue, and certain nonverbal gestures aren't always easily picked up. And then usually it averages by the age of 5, especially around the time kids start school, where the official diagnosis is made. But there are a lot of times when the parent will actually pick it up before the clinician. And there are actually some questionnaires. And that's what Amanda Seales was mentioning. There's one that's called M-CHAT-R, I believe, M-CHATR, the letter R, where you can go in and you can kind of do a questionnaire to have an idea on if your child, or, if a loved one, or if you yourself, if you exhibit some of the symptoms of autism. And so so that is a very possible case. That's why I'm glad you brought it up, that it is possible to know the diagnosis and then get validated by a clinician. But it does sound like that's, Cheryl, you did get it validated by a clinician. And sometimes clinicians get it wrong, especially in women, and girls. Apparently it's not diagnosed as frequently, not just because necessarily girls don't have it as much, but a lot of times girls tend to be better, according to the studies, they tend to be better at masking it. Like, even if they don't feel it with the social cues, or even if they don't want to answer more than yes or no, a lot of the scientists say that girls tend to figure out what's acceptable and they will do it. They will do the things that are more socially acceptable more frequently than men. And so they say that it's underdiagnosed in girls and definitely underdiagnosed in women. Okay. And so I say that to say that I like the fact that we have both 6s and 7s, because hey, it is possible that she knows what she's talking about. But again, it's that transparency piece. I wish that she would have shared straight out that she diagnosed herself. Okay. And then what if she's wrong in the diagnosis? You know what I'm saying? Because I know that a lot of people, like for me, and y'all know my background. I am a medical doctor. I am board certified in nephrology, meaning the study of kidneys and high blood pressure. But before that, did my residency, my double residency in internal medicine and pediatrics. I got my board certification in pediatrics, where of course I did a lot of studying with pediatric neurological illnesses, autism. I got my board certification in internal medicine. I now have a board certification on obesity medicine. And those things are not earned easily. And so a lot of times I'll have patients who will Google things or who will read WebMD, and they'll come in. And a lot of times they will be dead on, in what they're thinking, what the diagnosis is. But more often than not, while reading the WebMD and reading the Google may give them an idea, there still is a certain value in the way that a physician will process things. So in other words, just because you're very intelligent and you can read and you can figure out a lot of things, and you should be your own advocate, and you should go in with all the knowledge of your background and whatever your field is, plus using your brain and your knowledge and reading up on what you think your condition is. But by the time you interact with a physician or a clinician, when you find one that's a match for you, there certainly should be a level of respect of the decades, that physician or that clinician took. I say that to say, clearly Amanda Seales is highly intelligent. And I don't doubt that in her doing her research, finding out, whatever she found out and the matches, there is a great chance that she has it. But it just would have been nice had she revealed early on that a clinician had not co-signed it. And I really think it would be even better to go see a psychologist or a neurologist to see, is it just the autism spectrum disorder or is it something else? And again, not saying that she has these things, but there are overlaps in symptoms. For example, sometimes with autism, there can be wide mood swings. Autism can be associated with a depression and an anxiety. Well, bipolar disorder can do that as well. Not suggesting that she has it, but just saying, there overlaps sometimes that a really sharp clinician could sometimes pick out those nuances. Some other personality disorders, like borderline personality disorder, is something that can have some overlapping symptoms to autism spectrum disorder. I'm just thinking that, it just, to me, and of course, perhaps I'm biased because I am a medical doctor, because I am a physician, and I really do take, a lot of the certifications and the board certifications and the training very seriously. I just feel like it would just give more weight if a clinician kind of co-signed it. And no, again, I know physicians aren't the end all, psychologists, neurologists aren't the end alls, but it just feels like after an over 3-hour interview, after the fact, her coming back and saying, hey, I wasn't diagnosed, it just feels like there was some deception there. And so then it kind of leaves you with a bit of a feeling of ick. But I'll be honest, the way she described it, she does describe someone who really could have autism spectrum disorder. It's just, yeah. All right. So we had some 6s and some 7s. Any more comments on that?
Yeah, a couple of comments. So Sean says, I don't doubt her diagnosis, but I think she was making an excuse.
Oh, okay.
And Coach, where did it go? One moment. I lost it.
Yeah. So some people are saying, so is she just super unlucky, or are people jealous of her? She is smart. She is attractive. She is a comedian. She's funny. She is a gymnast. She's been a child star. Now there are a lot of people who are intelligent, even fewer who are very, very, very highly intelligent. But you can be very highly intelligent, but when you're in a room with people, you never make them feel dumb, right? And even in watching her interview, and like I say, I follow Amanda Seales on Instagram, and I really like a lot of her social consciousness, but even I can recognize that oftentimes she does come across as being condescending, or like she has no problem making it clear to her audience or to the person, you know, to whom she's speaking, that she's more intelligent than he or than she. And I saw that a lot with Club Shay Shay. Like some of her vocabulary words, I don't doubt that she just has an excellent vocabulary, but sometimes it does feel like it's like, you know what, especially when he got her wrong at the beginning of the interview. For the people who were in here and who had the 5s, tell me if y'all saw that part. If y'all saw this part, put an 8 in here. If you're one of the people who saw the interview or saw bits of the interview, put an 8 if you saw where Shannon Sharp was questioning her experience with racism. He was questioning Amanda Seales' experience with racism and basically telling her that what she experienced was not what she experienced. And then she kind of let him have it a bit. And she did, it feels like, really try to make him feel small. But to her defense, in that part, yeah, let me know if anybody put an 8 in there if they saw that part. In her defense, and I don't know what he was doing for this part of the interview, because she actually did get her master's like in African American studies, and she actually studied, she is a scholar of racism. In her experience as a listener, I 100% believed her in that the experience that she had as a child was an experience of racism. So it did feel like he was undermining her. And so in response, I think she did try to make him feel small. I won't necessarily fault her for that, because he tried to make, it seems, her experience feel small. Anyway.
Yeah.
But anyone put an 8 in there? Did anybody witness that part?
Yeah. So Coach HC, she did put an 8 and said she had something. Amanda do need to take some accountability. She mentioned after the video in another clip that the test is $10,000.
See, I wasn't aware of the test costing that much. I guess I really won't comment because I don't know what her insurance coverage is. But, you know, I have had, you know, people and patients who've had different neurological testing for different disorders. And I was never aware of it costing that much. Not to say that it doesn't, I'm just not aware. But yeah, so basically, I guess, Coach, whether she has that diagnosis or not, and again, very well, she could have it. She does exhibit, based on what she describes, a lot of characteristics of ASD or autism spectrum disorder. But either way, I guess what I'm hearing from you and from those 6s, TS and Melissa, that you still have to take accountability and be a kind person, respectful person. That's probably the bottom line. But yeah, but I really am rooting for Amanda Seales, and I hope that she does figure it out. Because I know she says she's not fake, she's not phony, she doesn't play the game. But in Hollywood, you actually have to play the game. And I'm not saying go out here and be the fakest person in the world, but if you look around and wherever you are, there's a fire, you might be the one lighting the match. And so she's doing the work. She has her psychologist, it sounds like, but I will keep following her, and I'm very curious to see how this conversation keeps unfolding. All right. So I know, look, there I go again with this motor mouth. I done talked until just about the end. I do want to hit, before we close, though, very quickly on the combined pig and heart, the combined heart pump transplant and the pig kidney transplant. I'll talk about that very briefly. And then if there are any other kind of pressing questions, we can catch those live questions before we close out.
Yes, we do, as always.
All right.
All right. Let's get the video up for you.
It is another amazing first in the world of surgery. This week, doctors successfully performed a gene-edited pig kidney transplant combined with a mechanical heart pump. Doctors say the 54-year-old woman had no other medical options. Today, Jeremiah Jacobson has more on the heart patient and what this surgery could mean for the treatment of chronic diseases.
When that opportunity first came to me, I was like, I got to try it.
From her bed in the intensive care unit at NYU Langone, Lisa Pisano says she's optimistic about the outcome of her surgery, which combined a mechanical heart pump and a transplant of a gene-edited pig kidney.
I feel the best I've felt in a long time.
Pisano said she'd exhausted all other medical resources. She had heart failure and end-stage kidney disease, but couldn't have a standard heart or kidney transplant due to other chronic medical conditions and the overall lack of donor organs in the U.S.
She only had weeks to live.
Dr. Robert Montgomery, who led the surgery, says the gene-edited pig kidney was a match and an immediately available organ option.
We didn't know if it would work, but we had circumstantial evidence to believe that it would, and it did.
Experts say xenotransplants, which put animal organs into people, are crucial to solving the organ shortage. Gene editing also allows for precise edits to a pig's DNA to help keep the human body from recognizing the animal's organs as foreign and rejecting them. While Pisano has a long way to go, her doctor says she's doing well.
The worst case scenario, if it doesn't work, it might work for the next person. At least somebody's going to benefit from it.
The first living recipient of a gene-edited pig kidney is 62-year-old Rick Slayman. He received
Okay. All right. So yeah, so we covered it here in Medicine in the News back when we had the very first pig kidney transplant, which was in a 62-year-old Black man just in March, right? Just last month. And now we've had the first combined pig kidney transplant with a heart pump. And again, she had congestive heart failure. And they said she'd had heart stents before that. And the number one cause of congestive heart failure is having coronary artery disease. Okay, so having those vessels that don't really supply the heart well. It's really neat though, because she's someone who, the recipient of the combined heart pump and kidney transplant, had colon cancer, was very, very sick, was not a candidate for getting human transplants. And it looks like she really had short days on this earth left. But after having these transplants, the heart pump and the pig kidney, she may, be able to live much longer. So I can't wait. And we'll keep following that story. If you wanted to know more about the pig kidney, go to my Instagram at dr.frita. And I did an interview in March. I did an interview in March on a national news show, Scripps News, where I was going into detail about that first pig kidney transplant. I talked about the 69 different gene edits. I talked about them knocking out the pig virus, the porcine endogenous retroviruses that they knocked out. I talked about them putting some human genes into the pig genes. I went into all of those details. I talked about why the pig kidney as opposed to using a monkey kidney or a baboon kidney. So make sure you go to my Instagram at dr.frita to see that interview. And if you want to see other interviews I've done on national news shows, then right here on this YouTube channel, Dr. Frita, if you go to my playlist and you look at television appearances, you'll see all of the different shows that I've done. But the pig kidney, you can catch that one on my Instagram. All right. So as we close on out, do we have any more comments or questions, any of the live questions on any of our topics today?
Yeah,
right.
so we do have quite a few questions. I'm going to start with Mr. Mark. He was the
We have
one
quite
to
a
ask the
few.
question.
Well, this is my favorite part. What y'all about to ask? Lord help
He
me.
says, hi, doctor. It's great to talk to you. So his question, he wants to know how much iron is good for a male vegetarian to take every day. He's low on iron and take one a day and feel low. He's 6 feet and 300 pound bodybuilder, but low on iron. Eats steaks
Okay.
and hamburgers. So what would be, I think, an acceptable amount for him to take as far as
Okay.
iron and your thoughts on iron?
Okay, excellent question, Mr. Mark. And again, everything that I give on here is medical information. It does not replace the advice of your physician. Let's talk about iron. So first of all, iron is very necessary because it is the building block for your red blood cells, right? And we know that your red blood cells are the little donut-shaped cells that carry your oxygen. So if you don't have enough iron, it's difficult to have enough oxygenated blood to carry to all of your tissues, especially to your muscles while you're doing the bodybuilding. If you are feeling deficient in iron, I would request that you see your primary care physician. And this is why, because there are certain amounts of daily recommended iron, but if you're already feeling weak or already feeling low, you may already be iron deficient. And so I would talk to your primary care physician and request these tests. I would request an iron level, a TIBC, and an iron saturation, as well as a ferritin. Okay, so iron level, ferritin, TIBC, iron saturation. And your doctor will know what to do with these tests. Or you can say, hey, can you do an iron panel? Because if you do this, your doctor can see if you're actually iron deficient. Because if you are, there's a few steps. One, that means that just kind of doing a daily vitamin or doing, the steak or the liver, that might not be enough. You may actually need to take a higher dose of iron, or if you have a very low amount of iron or low iron saturation, you may actually need IV iron, meaning you might need the iron to be put directly into your veins to boost you up. And this is very important because if you're very iron deficient and if you're very anemic, being anemic can do more than just kind of making you tired, making you fatigued. It can also increase your risk for having a heart attack, right? Or a stroke, or being short of breath, or causing a whole lot of other issues. So anemia, if severe, can be quite serious. Here's the other piece, Mark. If you are iron deficient, you need to know why. Now, for people who are born as female, especially of childbearing age, one of the very common reasons for women being iron deficient is having heavy menstrual cycles, right? Or even having fibroids or having some other type of bleeding. But something else that can happen with men and women alike, but with men, you want to make sure that you're not having an ulcer, right? Like a stomach ulcer, peptic ulcer disease. Make sure that you're not having anything going on your colon, right? Like a bleeding polyp or like colon cancer. You want to find out why you're anemic. The why is going to be very important. So with that, I would recommend that you see your primary care physician, find out if you actually are iron deficient. And then number 2, find out if, having the daily requirements is enough, or if you need to have IV iron, or if you need a whole anemia workup. Thank you for that question.
All right. Thank you, Mark. And he did mention that he is or still have anemia. So what would be, I guess, the line between anemia and then just iron deficient?
So you can be anemic, meaning that if you get that blood test. So if anybody who has your labs in front of you, if you're looking at my chart, if you go and you look at the hemoglobin and the hematocrit, those are going to be the numbers that let you know if you're anemic. Now, if you're someone with chronic kidney disease, then make sure you go to my video right here on this YouTube channel and look at CKD stages. Because if you have CKD, then your level of what is anemia may be different from everyone else's. But if you look at the hemoglobin, they might, if you're a female, someone born female, they may say your normal hemoglobin is 12 to 15. A man, it might be considered to be something like 14 to 18, depending on the lab. But that hemoglobin, if it's low, then you're considered to be anemic. Well, you can be anemic for many reasons. It could be from the iron, or you could be anemic from having something like a folic acid deficiency. You could be anemic just from having chronic disease, from having certain infections, if you have chronic infections, or even if you have chronic kidney disease, that can make you anemic, even if you have iron. So being iron deficient is just one cause of anemia, but there's a big umbrella. You could have sickle cell anemia. You can have beta thalassemia. There are lots of things that can cause anemia. Having a low iron is just one of the common reasons for being anemic.
All right. Thank you.
Thank you for that question, Mark, and thank you for watching. Make sure you like and share, please. Y'all, please, as you come on in, like this video as you come in, and like it before you go out the door. Let them know we're sharing evidence-based information. What else you got?
And Mark agrees with you, by the way. Everyone hit the like button, subscribe.
Dr. Thank you, Mark. Oh, Mark, I appreciate you.
Mark loves you. All right. Question from CS. Hey, doctor.
Hi.
For low vitamin D, me and my twin daughters were prescribed vitamin D and trying to stay away from milk. Do orange juice have vitamin D?
Ooh, okay. So certain things like orange juice, milk, sometimes you can just look and see if they're fortified with calcium or if they're fortified with vitamin D. But quite honestly, as far as like plant-based kind of natural sources of vitamin D, outside of mushrooms have vitamin D, then unless it's fortified, then probably not. Things like cod liver oil will have vitamin D, even salmon will have vitamin D. There are all types of other kind of food choices that will have vitamin D. But here's the thing. We now know, so vitamin D is more than just a vitamin. So yes, vitamin D can help your body to absorb calcium, which can help you to have nice, strong bones. But vitamin D, we know, can also help in your immunity. And we really learned during the lockdown and during the 2020 infection that changed the world. A lot of people who didn't make it, who lost their lives with that infection, okay, with that virus. A lot of them, during the lockdown, the C word, like I don't even want to talk it back into being strong. But anyway, a lot of people who had COVID and who did poorly, who were in the ICU and who lost their lives, it was associated with a very low vitamin D level. Okay. And so vitamin D, we know is important beyond just for having strong bones, but in a lot of ways, it's like it can act almost like a hormone, and certainly can help and aid in your immunity. I say that to say that it is important that you have a high vitamin D level. I'm sorry, a normal or having a good amount of vitamin D. So here is the thing. Vitamin D, yes, you can take it in certain food sources. You can also get vitamin D from sun exposure, where, through your skin, you can have the vitamin D, the sunlight, the UV rays can be converted to vitamin D. With that, it's a bit tricky because the more melanin you have in your skin, the more chocolateness, the more dark skin you have, and if you're a person who's a Black person, then you're going to have to be out in the sun a whole lot longer than someone who has white skin or very fair skin. It's just going to take longer to convert the vitamin D. And in doing that, we know that between the hours of 10 a.m. and 4 p.m., that's when the UV rays can be really strong. And the more you're out there, you can increase your risk of having skin damage, particularly skin cancer. We know people with lighter skin, fairer skin are more at risk for skin cancer. But I say that to say, if you're someone who's listening, if you have very fair skin, light skin, or white skin, I also don't recommend that you just go sit in the sun from 10 a.m. to 4 p.m. because those are also the hours that put you at high risk for skin cancer. All that being said, it's my recommendation. I'm glad that you've gone to your doctor because, again, what I give is information. It doesn't replace the advice of your PCP. But what your doctor would have done is likely checked your vitamin D 25 OH level. If that level is kind of low, they probably told you to take some over-the-counter vitamin D, like vitamin D3. No, you don't have to go take in a whole lot of dairy. You don't have to take in a lot of milk, but they may have told you to take in 2,000 IUs, 2,000 international units a day, or maybe 5,000 a day, or even 10,000 a day. Just please see what your primary care doctor recommended, but they would have done that based on your vitamin D level. If your vitamin D level was very, very low, they may have given you something called ergocalciferol and have you take it just once a week for 10 weeks, for example, to really boost you up. So no, you don't just have to go to milk. And if you're very deficient, even fortified orange juice is not likely to give you everything that you need. I recommend following the advice of a physician you trust, your physician who's actually seen you, done a history and physical, and make sure you keep that vitamin D level up for the reasons I mentioned. What were you saying, Shador?
Oh, no, I didn't say anything. That was
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Any other questions? I do want to catch the questions before we close out. Yeah.
So we have Audrey Cook.
Hi, Audrey. Thank you for joining
Good evening, doctor.
Hi.
What can I use to lower high blood pressure naturally?
Well, funny you should ask, Audrey. You should use this. This is my book that I wrote, Under Pressure, a guide to lowering your blood pressure. And you can actually get it on Amazon. And what I do now, yes, I'm a board certified kidney and high blood pressure specialist. And medicines actually do work. They can and they do work, but there are some natural ways as well. If you read that book, it'll give you a lot of information. Also, if you go to my video right here on this channel, I literally have a video titled How to Lower Blood Pressure Naturally. I know we have well over 3 million views on it. I don't know how many views we have on it now, but How to Lower Blood Pressure Naturally, where I talk about exercise, following the American Heart Association recommendation of at least 150 minutes of exercise per week. I talk about, doing things like slow, deep breathing, meditation. When you take in a slow breath, hold it for 4 or 5 seconds, and then release it. Doing that slow breathing helps to slow down the heart rate, to dilate the blood vessels, and it helps to lower blood pressure. I also talk about different fruits. And in my YouTube video that I just released this month in April, I talk about 12 fruits that help to lower your blood pressure. I talk about papaya. I talk about using pineapple. I talk about incorporating certain fruits in your diet that can help you to lower blood pressure naturally. Beets. I've been juicing beets lately. And I actually really, really like them. So beets, that root vegetable, is another way to lower your blood pressure naturally, because beets have nitrates, which your body converts to nitric oxide, and that nitric oxide causes your blood vessels to dilate, and you can lower blood pressure naturally that way. So in other words, you've come to the right place. I have so many resources for you to lower your blood pressure naturally. That being said, I believe in integrative medicine. I have patients who will walk into my office with blood pressures of 180 over 110. They say, I don't want any medicine, doctor. I want to lower my blood pressure naturally. Well, if you have a blood pressure that's super high and you're at stroke level, well, that's not the time to just do the beats and just do the meditation. If your blood pressure is that high, if it's extremely high, then I will recommend medications, and I will recommend lifestyle modifications. And guess what? As the exercise, as the water drinking, as the low salt, as the beets, as the papaya, as all of these things kick in and your blood pressure starts to lower, well, then we can wean you off medicines. I say that to say, consult with your physician on managing your blood pressure, but be open, because depending on where you are in your blood pressure journey, medications might be necessary, but you can still implement the natural interventions for lowering blood pressure. And as the natural interventions kick in, talk to your doctor about weaning you off the medicines. Thank you for that question. And thank you for the support. Y'all like this video, please, and make sure that you not only subscribe to me, but hit the notification. That way you'll be among the first to know when I release new content. All right.
All right. Keeping on the blood pressure train.
We got more questions. Train.
H.R.R. Williams.
Hello. Listen, you said train, and you know my mind be going everywhere. I went to a workout yesterday, and there was an 80s, 90s playlist at the gym. In fact, if you go to my Instagram channel, y'all, I have it on there, my workout that I did. Anyway, they have an 80s, 90s playlist. They played Come On Ride That Train while I was on the treadmill. So no, you know, I was up there doing the train dance. I darn near fell off that treadmill. They were playing Salt and Pepper. They were playing Janet Jackson. I just had to talk to myself, and I just had to be like, don't fall off this treadmill.
Oh, my.
Anyway, all right. Stay on the blood pressure train. Come on, ride that train. Hi.
Menopause bring on HBP, high blood pressure.
Yes. And that's the answer. Let me tell you something about menopause. And we actually, oh, you know what? If you go back, okay, go to my playlist to these lives. We actually talked about menopause back when we were doing the Halle Berry story. When Halle Berry's doctor said that Halle Berry had the worst case of menopause, the worst case of herpes ever. Halle Berry's doctor said that she had the worst case of herpes ever, but he misdiagnosed her. She didn't have herpes at all, but literally she was perimenopausal. And so if you go back to that live and you just kind of look in the thumbnail for Halle Berry, you hear where I talk all about menopause and perimenopause. But the short answer is going through menopause. You know, one of the things that can happen is you can have vasomotor disturbances. You can also call it hot flashes. Your hormones are changing. Your body's reacting. Menopause can cause a whole lot of things. But yes, it can be associated with high blood pressure. I have many patients who are coming in to see me, and they have never had high blood pressure all of their lives. Now they're sitting here going through perimenopause or even postmenopause, and they're finding that they have high blood pressure. So I guess I should say having menopause can be associated with high blood pressure. So perimenopause is a trip. And, you know, perimenopause is the time before you actually go through the menopause where you've had like no period for 12 months, but all of it can be associated with all types of vasomotor changes. And yes, there can be an association with high blood pressure. Thank you for your question.
Yeah, thank you. One more blood pressure. Welcome. This is from Donardo Barron.
Hi, Donardo.
Can an EKG test tell you have high blood pressure?
No. So the short answer is no. So the EKG test, the electrocardiogram, is literally a tracing of the heart and the electrical output. Okay. So they're measuring through the cardiac cycle what's going on. And what the EKG will do is it'll tell you a few things. It can tell you if your heart is beating at a nice, regular rhythm, if it's going at the proper pace and in a steady rhythm, or if you have an irregular rhythm. And if you have an irregular rhythm, which could be an indication of AFib, atrial fibrillation, which is a condition that can have a lot of consequences, including causing stroke or even causing you to be unalive if it goes without being treated. So an EKG can do that. An EKG can also let your physicians know if you're having a heart attack, okay, if you're having a myocardial infarction, or if you're having some type of heart stress or decreased blood flow. Okay, so the EKG can show that. It can also show if you've had a heart attack in the past sometimes, if there are signs of an old infarct or an old heart attack. So those are just a few of the things that the heart EKG can show. It can show if you have certain congenital heart issues like Wolff-Parkinson-White syndrome, depending on how the heart is beating, supraventricular tachycardia. So the EKGs can show a lot, but in and of themselves, the EKG tracing won't show blood pressure. It's going to be important that you actually have your blood pressure checked with a blood pressure cuff, a sphygmomanometer. And if you go to my YouTube video right here on the Dr. Frita channel, I have a video that I recently put out on how to measure your blood pressure properly, where I talk about how to choose your blood pressure cuff, how to know if the blood pressure cuff fits properly, how your feet should be positioned, how your bladder should be emptied, where your arms should be in order to measure your blood pressure properly. Yeah, you want to check with the blood pressure cuff that fits properly, and you want to measure it correctly. Thank you for asking that question.
All right, thank you, Donardo. Question regarding the measles from I Can See Clearly.
Oh, I can see clearly now.
So going to song. Is the MMR vaccine associated with egg? I think that was the vaccine I delayed, but did later for my 32-year-old. He had a reaction and to this day does not eat eggs.
Oh, shoot. So there are certain ones that will have egg. Like I know there's certain flu vaccines that can have egg. So what what I would do, let's talk specifically about your child. And again, this is information. It does not replace the advice of your clinician. I would have them to kind of go back and look at the record and see if it was felt that that reaction that your child has was related to an egg, and if it was indeed that vaccine, or if your child had multiple vaccines on that day, because you know sometimes they go back on the 2-month, 6-month visit. There could be another vaccine, like maybe it was a time when they got the flu shot and they had egg. The other thing I would do is I would have your child to consider, talk to the primary care physician, but to consider seeing an allergy specialist, because they can actually test to see if your child is allergic to egg. Now, what I do want to say with the MMR vaccine, so it's interesting that you brought up the egg question, but actually there was one thing that the MMR vaccine had a rep with for years as far as autism. Did anybody answer that question about if they thought that the MMR vaccine caused autism? That was one question that I would get a lot, especially when my focus was in pediatrics during my residency. I've gotten that question a lot. And
someone did ask it tonight.
Someone
did ask that question.
About autism?
About autism and the measles vaccine possibly being connected to each other.
Okay. Yeah. So for this question, I say go back to the records and first be clear, if it actually was egg, or if there was another vaccine like a flu vaccine that had egg, because usually they'll ask you if you have an egg allergy before doing the vaccine. But very importantly, in answer to your question, I would go to have your child to go to an allergist just to be sure, because if it's not eggs and if it's some other type of component, you definitely want to know the allergy. So yes, I would defer this to an allergist. And now for the autism question, are you able to pull that one up, Shador?
I'll go back and look on it. It was correlating, but while I go back and look for that, Miss Pat D.
Hi, how you doing, Miss Pat D?
Is it true if a child keep walking on the toes may have autism? I think I've heard that question before over the years.
So the short answer is not necessarily. Okay, because there are so many complex pieces to having autism. You can have a child who's walking on the toes because there's an issue with the Achilles heel or with the tendon, and there can be simply an orthopedic issue, like they need to go to an orthopedic doctor in order to have the foot or the tendon relaxed to allow them to not walk on the toes. But if it's a child who's walking on the toes, and a child who's doing a lot of repetitive behavior, and a child who's rocking back and forth, and a child who has an aversion to eye contact, they don't like to make an eye contact, and a child who's very sensitive to loud noises, and a child who has seizures, and a child who has digestion issues, and a child who's not able, you see what I'm saying? There's more to it. So if the only thing that a child has is walking on the toes and no other neurological or social cues, then not likely. But either way, as always, what I'm giving is information. It does not replace the advice of a pediatrician. I would definitely go in and bring that up to the pediatrician and see if it's a neurological issue or if it's an orthopedic issue. Good question.
Good question, Ms. Pat D. All right, this is about kidney stones from Miss Audrey.
Hey, Miss Audrey.
My sister struggles with kidney stones. She had surgery and it came back. What causes kidney stones?
Oh my goodness. Where do I begin? I'm gonna give you an abbreviated answer, but please have your sister to go to my YouTube video on the painful truth about kidney stones. Okay. And I have a couple of kidney stone videos where I go into detail about the different causes of kidney stones. But I will say in short, some people are genetically predisposed to having kidney stones. And for some people, they can get kidney stones if they have they're very dehydrated. Okay, if they don't have enough urine flow. Certain things can increase your risk, like if you have a lot of salt in your diet, that can increase the risk. for kidney stones if you don't have enough citrate. And we know that lemons and citrus fruit have a lot of citrate in them. The citrate can help decrease your risk for kidney stones. And then again, there's genetic predispositions. There's certain medications that can increase your risk for kidney stones. And so, but yeah, I go into detail there. I don't want to do it a disservice, but my video, The Painful Truth About Kidney Stones, have your sister to check that out. And of course, have her to consult with her primary care physician and potentially a urologist. One of the things that Shador knows that we do in the office is we'll order something called a Uro risk panel as a part of our workup, where literally we'll have patients to collect their urine for 24 hours. I mean, who doesn't want to do that? In a bucket. And when we do that, I look at the urine sodium, I look at the urine citrate, the urine potassium, the urine uric acid. I look at the particles in the urine, and I'm able to tell patients what particles are likely predisposing them to kidney stones. And I'm able to counsel based on that. So yes, a whole lot of things can cause them. Calcium oxalate, that's going to be your most common stone. But let me hush, because y'all can tell I'm getting hype about kidney stones. I'm going to go all deep up in it. But go to my video, The Painful Truth About Kidney Stones, and consult with your physician. Thank you for asking, and good luck to your sister. I want her to be well.
Absolutely. One more question, and we'll close with a comment, and then we'll be out of here.
Okay.
From BJ.
Hi, DJ.
B as in boy.
B like boy. Hi, BJ. Sorry.
It's almost starting a good blood pressure medicine for African Americans, in your opinion?
I'm sorry, say again.
It's almost certain a good blood pressure medication for African Americans.
It depends. I will say, traditionally and historically, in studying blood pressure for African Americans, there were big, wide categories saying what blood pressure medications were better for white people versus what blood pressure medications were better for Black people. And as you can imagine, especially if you live in the United States, you're hard pressed to find anyone who's been here and whose bloodline has been here for decades or even centuries. It's hard to find someone who is pure, whatever that means. In other words, how are you going to tell someone what's good for Black people when you really don't know what all they have in their bloodline, right? And how are you going to just categorically stop a whole race of people from having medications? Just to give an example, like they used to teach in medical school, A's and B's are for white people, C's and D's are for Black people, meaning like C's and D's, C's calcium channel blockers, D's diuretics are for Black people. Now we don't practice medicine like that, okay? We know that alpha blockers, beta blockers, calcium channel blockers, diuretics can be good for anyone depending on that person's clinical presentation, not just based on the color of their skin. So that being said, olmesartan is in the group of drugs called ARBs, angiotensin receptor blockers. These drugs can be good because one, they can decrease protein in the urine, so they can help to slow down the progression of kidney disease caused by diabetes. They can slow down diabetic nephropathy. ARBs can also, in some cases, be helpful for heart disease, as in preventing certain primary heart events like heart attacks, strokes, and they're good for lowering blood pressure. Okay, so yes, they can be good for people, including Black people. If you're someone, however, who has an acute kidney injury, meaning you have kidney disease that's just now starting, and it's not necessarily diabetic nephropathy, and your kidney function is falling, well, sometimes, depending on the cause, being on a medicine like the olmesartan can make the kidneys worse. So it's kind of a catch-22. In some cases, it can make it better, diabetic nephropathy. In some cases, you have something going on, you're very dehydrated, you have narrow kidney arteries, it can make it worse. Bottom line, olmesartan very well can be safe for Black people. I use it in my Black patients when it's necessary. I stop it in my Black patients when it's necessary. I use it in my white patients when it's necessary. I stop it when it's necessary, not necessarily race-based. Make sure you consult with your physician. And if you have any kidney disease or CKD, check out my video on CKD stages. If you are in CKD3 or even more advanced, stage 4, stage 5, ask your primary care doctor about a referral to a nephrologist and hypertension specialist who can further help you to figure out olmesartan for yourself.
All right. And thank you, BJ. Just to piggyback on olmesartan, this just came in from Dominique. Hello.
Hi, Dominique.
Is the olmesartan good for people that are prone to UTIs?
It can be. It can be. Yes, there's no contraindication. No absolute reason not to take it if you have a UTI. One thing you want to make sure of, and again, consult with your physician. But if you do have a UTI, just general information, in general, it's recommended that you stay very well hydrated. Find out the proper amount of fluid that is necessary for you. For many people, many adults, it's 2 to 3 liters of fluid a day, meaning if you think about a 16-ounce bottle of water, 4 to 6 of those a day. But depending on your body weight and depending on if you have any underlying kidney or lung or heart disease, what's proper hydration for you may be individualized. But staying well hydrated can help to decrease urinary tract infections. And you want to prevent honeymoon cystitis, or having a urinary tract infection after being intimate, having intercourse, especially if you are a female. As soon as you have intercourse, never mind sitting in there and being in the romantic moment, get up and urinate. Because what you want to do is make sure that any of the bacteria that we all have on our bodies, you want to make sure it doesn't crawl up into your bladder. So as soon as you are intimate, get up and use the restroom. That can help to prevent urinary tract infections. And in some cases, if you have cranberry juice, the grittiness in cranberries or the resins can sometimes bind to the bacteria in the bladder and help to decrease urinary tract infections. But there's no absolute reason that olmesartan in and of itself should not be taken or is not recommended to be taken for UTIs, but consult with your physician.
All right, thank you. So we're going to end with a shout out, Dr. Frita from Coach HC Mindset. Gave you a super sticker today.
Oh, wow. Thank you.
Follow back
I appreciate you, Coach. I appreciate you.
Thank you, Coach HC. So she's a mindfulness coach as well as other things in business.
Wait. Oh, so she is mindfulness. Okay,
Yeah,
good.
mindfulness.
Okay.
And she says, thank you, Dr. Frita, for giving important information. I've been watching you on YouTube since last year.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. So if you've been watching me, then you know that I believe that mindfulness, meditation, being intentional, breathing exercises, these are things that can help to lower blood pressure naturally. Anything that's going to help decrease the stress, help kind of center the mind, can actually help to lower blood pressure naturally. So thank you for that. And Shador, and I do want to answer the question that I kind of put out there. So I don't want to leave it out there. The MMR does not cause the MMR vaccine does not cause autism. There's no data to support, I should say, that the MMR vaccine causes autism. Back in 1998, there was a study that was published by Lancet, and there were only 12 children in the study. And according to the scientists, they said that 9 of them had autism, and they said that it was caused by the MMR vaccine. But what they later found that was that of the 12 scientists who actually participated in this study, if you can call it that, because there were only 12 kids in the study, 10 of the scientists retracted their statement. And one of the scientists they couldn't find, another scientist stood by his statements, but then they found that he was falsifying data. And since that study was just those 12 people, there have been hundreds of thousands of people studied with the MMR vaccine to see if it was related to autism. No data has been found. In 3 continents, over 18 studies have been done. No data has been found to support that the MMR vaccine causes autism. So that's one of those myths that got out there and kind of stuck and had a lot of people thinking, oh, I don't want to get the MMR vaccine, it might cause autism. But there's no data to support that the MMR vaccine causes autism. I just wanted to put that out there.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Frita.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Shador. You know what? I really love the live question and answer session. I never know what I'm going to get, but I definitely enjoy it. I thank you to everyone for watching. Again, please be sure to like this video, to share it, tell a friend, to tell a friend, to tell a friend, because we're going to be here again on next Monday for Medical Monday, Dr. Frita's Medicine in the News, with my wonderful co-host and my practice manager, Shador. And we'll be answering your questions, and let us know in the comments what you want to talk about. Okay. And keep an eye out on those headlines, and let me know if there's a hot health topic that I need to cover for next week. All right. I thank y'all for watching. Thank you for the support, and we will see you next week. Good night.
Good night. Thank